Welcome to the Mother's Voice podcast, a podcast where we share real-life stories and advocate for neuro-inclusivity. I'm your host, Edna Myra, a neuro-inclusivity advocate. Thank you so much for the overwhelming support that you've showed us in our previous videos. We are glad to interact with you. Just in case you missed it, the last episode I shared on how my life and that of my family changed when we were diagnosed with autism for my 4-year-old daughter. On this episode, we're going to dive into a different topic, one that is not new to the neurodivergent caregiver or parents. We'll be talking about meltdowns. So let me tell you a story. This was an year or so after our diagnosis, and we had already gotten into the routine of things. We were already going for therapy, and things were kind of looking up, I must say. So one day my daughter does a whole week of therapy. Saturday comes, and this time round I decided to take her to church on Sunday. It was a normal morning. We woke up, I had her fed, I had her prepared my family, and off we went to church. I remember during this Sunday, on this particular Sunday, I had forgotten a toy of hers that she loved carrying around. I mean, we're going to church, right? So we go to church, and I could sense that this is a new environment for her. But we get in. Do we even talk to our children about church? Today we are going to church, we're going to do this. I mean, we just go to church. And that is basically what I did. I just went to church. And like any other guardian, I sat with my daughter in the church. So we pray as a church, we sing songs, and just when the pastor is about to preach, my daughter lets out a scream. And in my head, I'm thinking, you decided to scream just when everyone is silent and we're waiting for the pastor to preach? Couldn't you have at least cried when, people were singing and a lot was going on? That way it will be less embarrassing. And I tried to calm her down. I tried to tell her, keep quiet. Shh. The normal things that you tell a child so that they may be quiet. And it's not working. In fact, it's the screams and cries are getting louder. And I remember the person next to me telling me, hey, take your child outside. They're making noise. Another one tells me, yeah, take the child outside. She's making so much noise. And I agree with them that she's making noise. And I quickly pick up my child and we go outside. As we are outside, there's nothing that I'm doing that is helping to calm my child down. I try pull out, the African mother thing of I'll beat you right now if you don't stop crying. It doesn't work. It becomes worse. I try giving her a candy. It does not work. I try telling her, singing her a song and all those things, hugging her, trying to shush her down. And it's just becoming worse and worse. And out of frustration, I just hold her hand and we start walking away from the church. In fact, to me, I was like, you know what? I'll just go stay in the car, in the parking lot. And when the child decides to calm down, we'll see what to do. So that was what was going on in my head. But I realized as we walk further from the church, the cries started, going down and going down. As we walked further, she became calm. And I was like, oh, so you didn't want to be the crowd in the church. There was something about the crowd that was just not making sense to you. Later on, I learned that was a meltdown. You may be asking, so what's a meltdown? To someone else, it may look like a tantrum. So what's a meltdown? Basically, a meltdown is a way of child telling you that they don't have control of the environment, they don't have control of their senses. It's basically an overstimulated or overwhelmed sensory. What happens? Let me give a scenario. just to help people understand what a meltdown is. When an autistic child walks in, let's say, a mall, or even a church in this case, because we were at a church, they go processing information. They go listening to how many people are talking. They go listening, oh, that's the choir singing. There's someone singing in a different tone. They go looking at the people, so many faces. This is color red, that is yellow, that is blue. They go listening to every sound. There's someone sipping on something. There's someone crying somewhere. Their shoes, knocking on the floor and making all these sounds. And all that is just so much processing for the brain to do. You can imagine you walking into a store and you're told, count all the colors you're seeing, count the number of people, listen to every song that is singing, listen to every noise, whether it's someone sipping on a straw or someone whispering or someone yelling or someone laughing. That can be overwhelming. I came to realize that that is what the brain was doing when we walked into the church. There was too much noise for my child to bear. There were so many colors for her brain to process, and hence a meltdown. And why the meltdown? It's a way of a child who is autistic to communicate to their caregiver that I can't control all these emotions I'm going through. It's too much for me to handle. I need a space or a place where I can let it all go. And that is why, as we walked further and further from the noise, further and further from the people, she was now calming down. Does this sound familiar? Whenever we go to, the supermarkets, the malls, churches. Till date, my daughter cannot stand being in church. So what we do, we go in, for the Sunday school, we do a bit of drawing. When we feel like she's overwhelmed, we take her out for a walk. We go away from people, and I've learned to navigate all these things. You cannot shut your child inside and decide, I will never go to church, I will never go to the malls, I will never go for shopping with them. They need to learn how the world operates. At one particular point of life, they will need to be with a crowd. They will need to be out with people. And I had to learn how to help my child navigate that, so that at the end of it all, she knows whenever she's having a system overload, she knows what to do. Some things that can also bring meltdown is when a child is sick or not feeling well. I know for my daughter, whenever she's not feeling well, she can cry uncontrollably. You know that cry that nothing can soothe her? That's what happens whenever she's feeling ill or sick. So whenever an autistic child is ill, it can cause regression in the brain. And the system just doesn't know how to handle this illness. So something good is get to know whenever your child is not feeling well. You will know some children just coil in their own places and they don't want to play. They're no longer interested in things that they would normally like, and things like that. So it's always good to have early intervention in everything, whether it's medically or therapy. Start early. Don't wait for, like a fever to escalate before treating it. Don't use over-the-counter medication assuming you know what is happening. I would rather you just go to an expert, a doctor, a pediatrician, and ask. Give them the symptoms, let them tell you what to do. Especially when you have a child who is neurodivergent, you don't want to second guess things, you don't want to guess anything. You want the experts to tell you what to do. And a meltdown can also just come because of frustration, because, unmet needs. A child is trying to communicate to you, you're not getting it, they'll have a meltdown. So even though my child is nonverbal, we have taught her how to communicate needs and wants around the house. I remember before I learned how my child communicates, they would just pull me, and I would wonder, why does this child keep pulling me? And so one day I just decided to go along with the flow. Whenever they pulled me to the kitchen, I would just walk with them to the kitchen and stand there, and I would see them, point my hands toward maybe a cup, and I would know, oh, so you're thirsty, so you need a cup of, water, and I would fetch them for her. She would pull me, to the fridge, and I will say, okay, so this is how she tells me she's hungry. She takes me to the fridge. She will take me to the fridge and just stand there. And I will wonder, okay, what have we come to do to the fridge? So understanding how your child communicates and also teaching your child how to communicate is really important. I know the big question, or what neurodivergent parents always almost want to hear, is their child talking. But they do talk. It's just that they don't use the normal preferred language, which is verbal, that we would love to hear. And don't worry, if your child is nonverbal like mine, one day they'll come to say. But before they come to talk, one day they'll come to talk, but before they come to talk, we need to teach them and train them. It may mean sign language, like more, like water, the water. Learn simple sign language, like give me, stretching out your palm. Are you sleepy? Do a sign for sleepy. Learn simple sign language and teach your child the simple sign language they could use to help them communicate. And then also know how your child communicates. Every single child, whether neurodivergent or not, communicates. Learn how your child communicates. Mine communicates by pulling me, and I've learned. And anytime your child pulls you and does not use words, respond by using words. So, for example, when my child takes me to the fridge, I will say, "Is Neema hungry?" I'll verbalize what she's trying to say. If she takes me to where the cabinet where we put cups, I will say, "Oh, Neema is thirsty. Let me get some water for Neema." That way, whenever she keeps hearing those words, I remember so vividly the first words my child said is, "I am hungry." I know you are waiting for the first words to be maybe mommy, daddy. Well, for autistic children, it doesn't work like that. They're more special. So the first words they often say is the word that they've learned how to say. For us, it was, "I am hungry." And we're like, oh, she actually said a word. And it was a time to celebrate. So until when your child can verbalize something, keep saying it to them, even if they look like they're not hearing, even if they look like they'll not respond, keep at it. I am assuring you, I promise you, it will pay off. So learning and teaching your child how to communicate really does work magic. And in our house, we've learned to put things on her level. So also putting things that are child-friendly on her level. For example, cups. Things like cups, a place where she can fetch water, a place where she can get a snack. Putting it on their level also increases, like it will decrease the chances of them having a meltdown, because they cannot get their favorite toy, or they cannot get food, cannot simply get, something to calm them down. For my daughter, it's something as simple as a blanket. If she walks around the house and she cannot find a blanket or a shawl or something to pull over herself while sleeping, she'll start crying or getting a meltdown. So we've learned to put things on her level where she can reach. That way we decrease meltdowns. So things that I did that really helped me. Number one, children with autism and predictability are friends. Autistic people love routine. You remember I told you we were going for therapy, and then Saturday comes and Sunday we just go to church? Well, nowadays, I have to tell my child way in advance what we are going to do, even for the week. And I have to repeat it over and over again. So something that can help you is that let your child know what activities are going to be done. Till date, if it's a day to go to therapy, I tell my child, Neema, today we are going for therapy. We're going to see a doctor. And what will the doctor do? The doctor will help Neema, and the doctor will play with Neema. That way she knows, oh, this is what mom was talking about. That way she will not have a meltdown whenever we go for therapy. Whenever we go to the mall, I tell her we're going to the supermarket, we're going to the mall, and we will see different colors. We will see yellow color, we'll see red color, we'll see many people, we'll see baby, we'll see daddy, other daddies, we'll see other mommies. And whenever we go to the mall, we go mentioning the things that I told her we'll mention. So whenever a baby passes by, we say, see, there is baby. See, there's another daddy, there's another mommy, just to prepare her for what's ahead. So that when we go and perform those things, she knows this is what we were supposed to do while we're in church, while we're in the supermarket, while we're in the malls, while we're outside. I prepare her early in advance. Even when we're going to see relatives, I tell her tomorrow or today we're going to see grandpa and we're going to see grandma. And I even show her the picture of grandma and grandpa. And what we will do, we will hug grandma, we will hug grandpa, we will eat with grandma, we will have fun, we will play. So that when we go to grandma's place, she knows what to expect. And by this, we lessen the meltdown. And whenever we feel like she has a sensory overload, we take her out, away from the people, away from what will cause her a meltdown. So this has really helped us, just having that predictability of things and saying things in advance and teaching her and walking her through things. So another thing that has really helped me when it comes to meltdown is understanding my child. And because of the routine, we also know what we need to do at any given time. For example, her breakfast is taken at the same day. She wakes up at the same day. Somehow autistic children have an alarm clock in their mind. They know 1 hour of an activity. They know when something is over and when we need to move to the next. So I always know when my child needs to feed. That way we feed. I know when she needs, to do a specific activity, and I allow her to do that whenever the time to do that activity reaches. And I've also helped her to learn how to communicate that to us. My daughter is nonverbal. That means she cannot talk using words, but there are other ways of talking, like gestures. She says when she's happy, she'll come and say happy, and you join her in being happy. Say, oh, you're happy, then let's clap, let's dance. She comes and say, I'm sad, and I ask her, why are you sad? Of course, she can't tell me, but I try to get why she is sad, and I try to offer a solution. Do you need a hug? Do you need quiet time? And she will tell you what she needs. If she brings a blanket along, I know she needs her quiet time. She needs a rest. So she lies down and cover her. I've taught her how to go to a safe space. And safe space can be anything for you. For us, it is lying somewhere and covering. That way, she's able to block out everything that can stimulate her brain to process information. I cover her so that she does not have even that visual processing. So whenever she brings a blanket alone, she needs to calm down. There's been an overstimulation of things. So that can also help. Communicating with your child to let them know that whenever you're overwhelmed, this is what you need to do. Come tell mommy, come tell the caregiver that this is what you're experiencing. If they cannot verbalize it, you can draw it. Show them, is this how you're feeling? Mimic that to them. If they say I'm sad, show them a sad face so that next time when they go through these feelings, they know what to do. So I hope some of these tips and tricks do help you, and kindly leave reviews. If you have more tips that I could use for my journey, kindly, I'll appreciate that. So during meltdowns, it can also be overwhelming to you as a caregiver or a parent to an autistic child. So it is also important to understand yourself and know yourself as a caregiver and as a parent, how to navigate some of these distress calls or even you being distressed, and how to exercise empathy to the child. Let me give you my own story. At the beginning, before I understood meltdowns and what to do, I would get really annoyed. Why is this child crying? Can't she see that I'm also frustrated? Can't she see she's embarrassing me? You can really be distressed in that time. But I've learned how to extend grace, one, to my child, and two, to myself. I've learned how to ask for help. Whenever I feel like I cannot take it anymore, and whenever she's having a meltdown, I tap out and my husband taps in, takes a walk with her, or also, tries to calm her down. So always feel free and always practice stepping out for a few moments. It's okay for you whenever you feel distressed to just take one step back, breathe in, breathe out, and then go back at it with more energy. So it's not always, sometimes it can be so overwhelming to a parent. And then also extend empathy to a child. Know that whatever they are doing is not out of their will. Remember, while tantrum is a way for a child to control you so that you give in to what they want, meltdown is the opposite. It means a child has no control whatsoever is happening, has no control of their emotions, of their feeling, and they don't know what to do. So extend grace to this child. Allow them to feel the way they are feeling, validate their feeling. And this can be when a child is crying, just allow them to cry. Just look at them, offer a hug if they can be touched. Unfortunately for my daughter, doesn't like hugs, not unless she's the one coming for the hug intentionally, but she will not just want you to hug her. She doesn't like touches. She's very uncomfortable with touches. Some autistic children are like that, while others really love hugs. So offer whatever it is that your child will feel comfortable. Allowing that child to cry, just removing anything that might be of danger. You know, like if they kick and yell and maybe they'll hit themselves maybe on a stool or an aisle in a supermarket, pull them away from whatever it is they may be in danger of, and just allow them to cry. I want to say block whatever people will say. Yeah, actually, I will say that. Block whatever people will think, feel, or tell you, especially in an open place, because people will not understand what your child is going through. Only you understands what your child is going through. For example, whenever I'm in maybe church or the mall and someone says your child is making noise, you know, sometimes a tantrum can be labeled as bad parenting. You don't know how to control your child, and you know all these things are being pointed to you as a bad mother, as a bad father, as a bad caregiver. Your child is misbehaving. A meltdown is not a misbehaving. You know, it's not misbehavior. So block what other people are telling you. Do not be mom shamed, do not be dad shamed because of what your child is going through. Accept your child for who they are and extend grace to the child. Have empathy and have patience. Patience is very key. Three things: empathy, patience, and courage. The courage to do it outside, extend empathy to the child, and patience for yourself. It gets better by the day, because as you learn your child, as you continue going for therapy, you become a hero. In fact, you're doing well, mama, you're doing well, dada. So congratulations for reaching this far. So extend empathy for the child and even for yourself. Hold some grace for yourself and be patient. Sometimes coming down a meltdown can take time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on the environment. Because you see, by the time you remove this child from the environment, whether it's church, you remove this child from the mall or, you know, outside, we have learned how to cut a meeting whenever we're with family and it's too much for our child. We've learned how to cut that meeting and just go back home. We've learned how to drive or put the car aside and just wait until the child will cool down and, you know, get back to themselves and then continue with the journey. We've learned how to walk, you know, cut down a shopping time. I love shopping. I love how I feel whenever I go for shopping. But I also know how to be patient and how to tell myself I need now to come out of this place. It may mean that today I will not have my shopping day. I'll just have to go back home and maybe come back without the child. So learn how to be patient with the child. As they grow, they also get better as you teach them. They get better in learning how to navigate some of these meltdowns. Have empathy, have patience, and have the courage to do it even in public. If ever you walk into a mall, a church, and you see a child screaming, extend some love, extend a kind word. Tell the caregiver, don't worry, you got this. Don't be so quick to judge a parent or a caregiver who has a child who is screaming and rolling on the floor in a supermarket. Don't point fingers and say, that is bad parenting. Why can't you control your child? No. Extend love. You never know what this parent is dealing with. It could just be a meltdown from an autistic child. If you can offer help, do. And help can be anything. It could be, can I hold your cat as you take care of your child? Do you need anything? Do you want me to take care of anything as you take care of your child? It can even be, do you need a few minutes as I watch your child so that nothing bad happens to the child, like getting hurt and all that. So if you ever see a child in a supermarket, any open place, just crying and having a meltdown, offer some love, offer an open heart. You will be, helping the world become a better place and be all inclusive. For places like supermarkets, institution, whenever you see such things, train your employees how to jump in and help. It could be just being an assistant shopper for that parent who is autistic, because sometimes we don't have the luxury of walking through all these aisles, choosing and picking. Train your employees so that they can always offer a helping hand to, in such places. Let me give a shout out. This is not sponsored, but let me give a shout out to places like the Galleria Mall in Langata, or is it Karen? At Bomas Junction, rather, the Galleria Mall, like Textbook Center. One way of me calming my child down, we first go into the Textbook Center and she gets to read. Now, I think she loves the Textbook Center because, one, it's not overcrowded. You'll find few people in it, yeah, and she gets to read and just be by herself. After we go to the Textbook Center, now she's able to navigate and go through the mall or the supermarket. And while at the mall and the supermarket, I put her inside the trolley. I don't make her sit on top of the trolley where it's designated for children to sit. I put her inside and I give her a book to read. That way, she doesn't have to concentrate on what she's seeing around. And I love that because, employees who are there understand me. And it's also because I have talked to them and I've told them my child is autistic. So at one point, if you see her screaming, she's okay. I'm with her. And they have extended that hand to help me. So go to places where it is neurodivergent friendly, where they are inclusive, and don't be afraid of sharing your story, just like I am doing. You never know, you could be changing a life or two outside there. If you found this episode helpful, kindly subscribe to all our podcast platforms. That is YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other of your favorite podcast platforms. Kindly leave us a review. Let us know what you think and share these episodes to many more, whether they are parents of neurodivergent children, those who are just willing to listen with a big open heart, or those who would like to support.